The quarterly review packet felt like leading Alex Carter's hands. Across the sleek glass desk, Chris Bennett, head of design, his boss, and the man whose approval felt like oxygen, scanned the final page. Chris's sharp navy suit couldn't hide the tension in his shoulders. The Innovatex project, Alex's baby, was bleeding money. Explain the Q-side overrun, Chris said, his voice calm but cutting. No pleasantries. Chris rarely wasted time on them. Alex straightened his own slightly rumpled shirt. The prototype testing phase hit unexpected snags with the new sustainable composites. Supplier delayed, then recalibration. It ate into the buffer. He kept his voice level, projecting confidence he didn't fully feel. But the revised timeline here, he tapped the document, shows recovery by QE. The core innovation is sound. Chris's piercing gray eyes lifted, meeting Alex's. They held a disconcerting intensity capable of dissecting a design flaw or a flimsy excuse with equal precision. Alex felt the urge to fidget. He admired Chris since joining Orion Design, his ruthless efficiency, his visionary thinking, the way he commanded a room without raising his voice. Admiration had, inconveniently, morphed into something warmer, more distracting, over late nights and shared frustrations. Chris closed the folder. Sound isn't profitable. The board sees risk. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. Alex noticed the faint ink stain on his index finger, a rare human flaw. Convince me this isn't a sinking ship, Alex. By Friday, airtight plan, revised cost projections, supplier guarantees. The dismissal was clear. Understood. Alex stood, gathering his files. As he turned, Chris added, quieter than Alex. Get some sleep. You look like you've been wrestling those composites yourself. The unexpected, almost gentle concern sent a jolt through Alex. He managed a nod before escaping the pressurized office. In the hallway, he leaned against the cool wall. Chris Bennett noticed his appearance. It shouldn't matter, but it did. The challenge was daunting, the pressure immense. Yet, beneath the anxiety, a spark ignited. Convince me, he would. For the project, for the team, and maybe, just a little, for the man whose rare approval felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Friday loomed like a deadline guillotine. Alex's desk was buried under spreadsheets, fabric samples, and half-empty coffee cups. The open plan office was deserted, bathed in the eerie glow of emergency lighting. He sent his team home hours ago, bearing the brunt of the re-planning. Himself, a soft click echoed. Alex looked up, startled. Chris stood in the entrance of his cubicle, silhouetted against the dimness. He shed his suit jacket, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. He looked less like the untouchable executive and more approachable, human, still digging out. Chris asked, his voice softer in the quiet, trying to find bedrock. Alex sighed, rubbing his eyes. Supplier C finally came back with figures. Not great. Chris pulled up a spare chair, his wheels squeaking loudly in the silence. He sat close enough for Alex to smell his subtle, clean cologne. Cedar and citrus. Show me. They bent over Alex's laptop, shoulders almost touching. Chris's focus was absolute, scanning numbers, asking sharp, insightful questions. Alex explained his revised approach, the compromises, the calculated risks. Chris listened, truly listened, his brow furrowed in concentration. It wasn't interrogation. It was collaboration. Shift the phased rollout, Chris suggested, pointing at the screen. His finger brushed Alex's hand, a tiny, electric contact. Alex froze. Chris seemed not to notice. Prioritize the core modules that use existing, reliable materials. Proof the concept as market viability first, then integrate the riskier innovations. It buys time, reduces upfront exposure. It was brilliant, obvious, yet Alex hadn't seen it. That could work. Alex breathed, feeling a surge of relief mixed with something warmer. Chris's proximity, his focused intelligence, the shared intensity of the late hour. It was intoxicating. Chris leaned back, meeting Alex's gaze. The harsh office light softened the lines around his eyes. It's a good plan, Alex. Solid, strategic. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. Told you the core innovation was sound. Alex's heart hammered against his ribs. The praise, delivered in the intimate quiet, felt monumental. Thanks. He gestured vaguely at the laptop. The late hour. This. Chris stood, stretching. Alex tried not to stare at the way his shirt pulled across his shoulders. Get it finalized. Email it to me before you leave. Then Alex. He paused at the cubicle entrance. Ordered dinner. Expensive. This isn't a martyrdom contest. He left, the click of his dress shoes fading. Alex stared at the spot where Chris had been. The scent of cedar lingered. The spreadsheet glowed on the screen. For the first time in days, The pressure didn't he feel crushing, it felt charged. He had a plan, he had his boss's respect, and he had the memory of gray eyes holding his in the midnight office, sparking a dangerous, exhilarating hope. The revised plan worked. Innovatex secured conditional board approval. Alex's team celebrated. Chris offered a curt, public well done, but the warmth in his eyes during their private debrief spoke volumes. Things shifted subtly. Chris sought Alex's input more often. Not just on Innovatex but on broader strategy. Their meetings ran longer, discussions flowing easily from market trends to the absurdity of corporate jargon. Alex found himself anticipating their interactions, rehearsing points just to see Chris's thoughtful nod. That rare spark of amusement, the unspoken current between them grew stronger, a constant hum beneath professional exchanges. Alex noticed Chris's gaze lingering a bit too long when he presented. Chris would casually touch Alex's arm, making a point, the contact brief but electric. They did share knowing smiles during tedious meetings, a secret language in a room full of people. It was exhilarating and terrifying. One Tuesday, returning from a brutal cross-departmental meeting where Alex had expertly defended their budget, Chris fell into step beside him in the hallway. "Handled well in there," Chris said, his voice low. "Thanks." Finance was circling like vultures, Alex replied, his pulse quickening at Chris's proximity. "They always do." Chris glanced around. The hallway was momentarily empty. Drinks. Debrief. The carnage properly, my treat, the usual place. The usual place was a discreet, quiet bar a few blocks away, where they occasionally discussed sensitive work matters. Alex's breath hitched. This felt different. Sure, 7:30分. Chris nodded. A flicker of something intense in his eyes. 7:30分. He walked briskly towards his office, leaving Alex rooted to the spot, the air crackling with possibility. The bar was dimly lit, all dark wood and soft jet. Chris was already there nursing a whiskey. He detached the tie. They slid into a secluded booth. Work talk lasted precisely 10 minutes. Then the conversation turned personal. Alex's disastrous attempt at pottery classes, Chris's secret passion for restoring vintage motorcycles, their shared dislike of winter. Chris laughed, a rich, warm sound Alex realized he'd rarely heard. The barriers dissolved. Alex saw the man beneath the boss, witty, surprisingly self-deprecating, fiercely loyal to his team, leaning closer to hear over the music. Chris's knee brushed Alex's under the small table. Neither moved it away. The air thickened. Alex watched Chris's lips as he spoke, the curve of his jaw in the low light. The attraction was a physical force, undeniable. Chris's gaze dropped to Alex's mouth, then snapped back up, a question burning in his gray eyes. The unspoken current roared between them. Alex's hand rested on the table. Chris's fingers brushed against it, tentative, questioning. Alex turned his hand, palm up, a silent invitation. Chris's fingers interlaced with his, strong and sure. The world narrowed to the point of contact, the shared breath, the dizzying leap they were both poised to take. No words were needed. The current had finally found its conduit. Reality crashed in with the morning light. Alex woke tangled in sheets that smelled faintly of Chris's cologne, the memory of the night before playing on a loop. Chris's hands, his mouth, the whispered confessions in the dark after leaving the bar. Euphoria warred with cold dread. He asked my boss. HR policies flashed like neon warnings. Office gossip could be a career-ending grenade. At work, the tension was exquisite agony. Chris was all professional composure in the morning briefing. But Alex caught the fleeting heat in his gaze, the almost imperceptible brush of fingers when handing Alex a document. Every interaction was layered, charged. A shared coffee run felt illicit. An email signed off, Beth. Chris became a secret love letter. Chris was careful, masterfully navigating the line. He delegated a high-profile client presentation to Alex, bolstering his visibility. He publicly praised his strategic leadership on Innovatex. He maintained plausible deniability, yet, in stolen moments, the quiet word by the printer, a lingering look across the crowded cafeteria, the connection flared. Undeniable. The risk gnawed at Alex. One afternoon, finding Chris momentarily alone in his glass-walled office, Alex stepped in, closing the door softly. Chris looked up, surprise melting into warmth. "Alex, what's up?" "We need to talk," Alex said, his voice tight. "About this, about us, about HR breathing down our necks." Chris leaned back, steepling his fingers, the boss mask slipping back on, but his eyes remained soft. "I know," he sighed. "I've been calculating the risks, daily, and you're worth it." The simplicity of the statement stole Alex's breath. "But you're right, we can't be careless." Chris stood, walking to the window overlooking the city. "I won't hide you, Alex. But I also won't jeopardize your career, or mine, not frivolously. He turned, his gaze intense. I am exploring options, lateral moves, reporting structure changes. It takes time. Discretion is paramount until then. The admission that Chris was actively working to dismantle the barrier was overwhelming. 余地度大. Alex whispered. Chris crossed the space between them into strides, stopping just short of touching. I don't say things I don't mean, especially not to you. His voice was low, fierce. What we have. It is not a fling, it is not just attraction, is it? Alex shook his head, emotion clogging his throat. No, it is not. A ghost of a smile touched Chris's lips. Then we navigate this, carefully, smartly, together. Can you trust me? Trust the process. Looking into Chris's steady gray eyes, seeing the determination, the protectiveness, Alex felt a knot of anxiety loosen. It was still a tightrope walk, but Chris wasn't asking him to walk it alone. Yes, Alex breathed. I trust you, Chris. Nodded, a silent promise passing between them. Good. Now, get back to work. Carter, that client deck won't polish itself. The boss voice was back, but the warmth in his eyes was solely for Alex. The risk remained, but it felt like a shared investment now, not just a perilous leap. Their careful dance lasted a tense, exhilarating month. The stolen moments grew sweeter. A lunch shared in Chris's office with the door locked, fingers entwined under a conference table during a long call. Texts that had nothing to do with work. Chris hinted at progress with HR, a potential restructuring that could move Alex under a different VP. Hope felt tangible. Then, the league. Alex discovered it via a forwarded email chain from a concerned colleague. The subject line: inappropriate manager-superior relationship. The body was vague but damning, mentioning observable closeness and potential favoritism between Chris Bennett and Alex Carter. It was sent anonymously to HR and a handful of senior managers. Ice flooded Alex's veins. He stared at the screen. Humiliation and fear warring. The careful walls they built were crumbling. Before he could process, his desk phone rang. Chris's extension. Alex, my office. Now, Chris's voice was clipped, devoid of its usual warmth. Professional. Dangerous. Alex walked the corridor feeling like a condemned man. Chris's door was open. Inside sat Eleanor Vance, head of HR, her expression unreadable. Chris stood by the window, his back rigid. Alex, close the door, Eleanor said calmly. Alex obeyed, his heart pounding. An anonymous concern had been raised. Eleanor began, her tone neutral. Regarding potential inappropriate conduct between you and Mr. Bennett, we take these matters very seriously. Chris turned. His face was a mask of cool authority, but Alex saw the storm in his eyes. Miss Vance requires our full cooperation and transparency, Chris stated, his gaze locking with Alex's. It was a look that said, trust me. Stick to the script. We have a strictly professional relationship. Alex is a valued member of my team, recognized for his exceptional work on Innovatex. As the project metrics demonstrate, any perception otherwise is a misunderstanding. Alex found his voice, shaky but clear. That is correct, Miss Vance. My focus has always been on delivering results for Orion and supporting Mr. Bennett's leadership. He echoed Chris's formality, his heart breaking a little. Eleanor studied them both. Your professional records are indeed impressive. However, perceptions matter, anonymous or not. Such allegations create a challenging environment. She paused. Mr. Bennett, given the reporting structure, an internal review is standard. It will be confidential but thorough. Chris gave a curt nod. Understood. We will cooperate fully. Alex, Eleanor continued, while the review is ongoing, reporting for the Innovatex project will temporarily shift to VP Chen, a precautionary measure. ULL report directly to her. Alex felt the blow, removed from Chris's direct oversight, isolated. I see, he managed. Dismissed, Alex, Chris said, his voice tight. Continue your excellent work under VP Chen. Alex left, the door clicking shut behind him. The carefully constructed world felt like it was collapsing. He defollowed the script, denied what was real, and now he was being pulled away. He didn't know if Chris could fix this. The trust felt fragile, the future terrifyingly uncertain. The weeks under VP Chen were purgatory, efficient but distant. Chen offered none of Chris's intuitive understanding or quiet support. The Innovatex team sensed the shift, morale dipping. Alex felt adrift, hyper-aware of whispers, the weight of the anonymous accusation hanging over him. He saw Chris only in passing, brief, guarded nods, Chris's expression unreadable. The distance was agony. The HR review concluded. Alex was summoned back to Eleanor Vance's office. To his shock, Chris was already there. Standing tall, a file on Eleanor's desk. Alex, Eleanor began, her expression less severe. The internal review found no evidence of policy violation or favoritism in work assignments or evaluations. Your performance record stands clear. Relief washed over Alex. Weak but potent. However, she continued, the perception issue remains. The anonymous source, while unsubstantiated, highlights a vulnerability. Chris spoke, his voice firm, which is why I've tendered my proposal to the board. Miss Vance, effective immediately, he pushed the file towards her. Alex stared, confused. Eleanor opened it, the restructuring. Moving Alex Carter's role in the entire Innovatex division under the newly created Strategic Innovation Department. Reporting directly to the CEO, she looked up, impressed despite herself, bypassing design entirely. Chris met Alex's stunned gaze. Your work, Alex, deserves its own platform, free from any perceived conflicts. The structure recognizes Innovatex's strategic importance and gives you the autonomy you've earned. He turned back to Eleanor. The board approved it this morning, my formal recommendation. Alex understood. Chris hadn't he just defended him. He de-championed him. He dismantled the problematic reporting line not by stepping back, but by propelling Alex forward, out of his shadow and into his own light. It was a brilliantly selfless chess move. Eleanor nodded slowly. A decisive solution, Mr. Bennett, and one that addresses the core concern. She stood. Alex, congratulations on the new reporting structure. ILL informed VP Chen. This matter is closed. Alone in the hallway moments later, Alex turned to Chris, emotion overwhelming him. You did this. For me. Chris as professional. Mask finally slipped, revealing the exhaustion, the strain, and the unwavering resolve beneath. For us, Alex, for your talent, for the future. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. The path was always going to be complicated. But I meant what I said. You were worth the calculated risks. Worth building something real, on solid ground. He didn't touch Alex, not here, but the look in his eyes held everything, the apology for the distance, the fierce pride, the promise. Your first meeting with the CEO is Monday, Director Carter, Chris said, a hint of his old warmth returning. Don't be late. Alex watched Chris walk away, his stride purposeful, the fear and isolation evaporated, replaced by a profound sense of possibility. The foundation wasn't built on secrecy or denial anymore. It was built on respect, sacrifice, and the quiet, unshakable certainty that Chris Bennett wasn't just his former boss. He was the architect of their chance, and Alex couldn't wait to build what came next together, on level ground. The blueprint for their future, finally approved, was just beginning. Alex and Chris finally found their level ground, but it took guts and sacrifice. If their journey resonated with you, give this video a like. It tells YouTube you want more stories like this. What would you have done? Could you navigate an office romance like this? Share your thoughts down in the comments. Hit that subscribe button. Your support helps me keep creating. Thanks for watching.